As I mentioned before in the executive summary, we actually have 11 things that we want the senior pastor to be able to articulate, to be able to implement in order to just make this change happen. So the first one is just articulating the vision, right? So we have a vision for people to grow as leaders. And we want to implement a career development plan and a personal development plan. And for people to get on board with this and just step up and to, push through those hard times, because this isn't going to be easy. In order for them to do that, we need to just articulate this vision across the board, right? And so people already are all on board with the core values of the church, but this new vision might be hard for people to get on board with. So step one is articulating this need for people to step up and take ownership of their individual responsibilities, and then the rest of the things on the list that I'm going to talk about. So the second implementation is that we want to allow people to meet with the head pastors, and want people to be able to communicate upwards and express their needs, express their questions, express their desire to help, and be able to connect with other departments so that everyone can move forward together. That is the first step for people to be able to overcome their challenges, is for them to just be told when they can take liberties and come up with their own solutions, and then when they can just receive guidance on how it's already been done before, and what has worked. The third thing is goal setting. So regardless of what people are doing and what their role is, they're going to need to set new goals and come up with new events and different things they want to accomplish. And in this step, there might be some failure and some struggles, but that's what they're going to learn, and that's what the entire program, the entire church is going to continue to grow and progress. So if people aren't actually taking risks and setting new goals, whether it's short-term, mid-term, or long-term goals, there actually isn't going to be growth. So meeting with the head pastors, articulating a vision, and then setting goals that align with those core values. That's the third step. Actually, it's kind of 1 through 3. But then the fourth step is to just have evaluations and assessments. So as people are, taking on new goals and they're communicating with pastors and other departments, we actually want to implement some sort of assessment, some sort of way to evaluate, how are people doing? Is what they're doing beneficial? Is it a waste of time? Can they be doing it differently? What's working? What's not? Should we put you in a different role? And things like that. And sometimes a lot of the reason that people get burnt out or they drop out and they're not having a successful or a fun time there is because they're really just in the wrong role. So trying to help people understand their own strengths, and then get them into the right position. That is step 4. Step 5 is communication. So I already talked about meeting with the head pastor and communicating upwards. But in addition to communicating vertically, we also want to communicate horizontally, right? So for people to be able to speak with their peers, for them to be able to talk to other departments, and just connect, in the satellite churches and, with children's ministry to young adult ministry to different things, and see how people, what are they doing right, what are they doing wrong, how can they grow and learn in these things. Also, we want to encourage even new leaders to start inspiring and recruiting and training people below them, right? Because everyone does have an ability to lead, and that is one of the core beliefs of Mariners Church. The sixth thing I want to talk about is simply documentation. So in order for us to reflect and look back on, what were we doing right or wrong in the past, and what are we doing now, and what did we do just last week? People need to actually start documenting things. So just creating accountability there and encouraging people to, record how many people were at events, what did they do at the events, what went well, what went right, how many people showed up. All these things, what was said when, is going to help people really understand what is working and what's not. And as they do that, and as they figure out what's working, they could pass that along to the people after them and share that documentation so that in the future, people will not have the same confusion. There will not be as many ambiguous complexities, right? People will have their roles defined because things are actually documented.